Okay, so yet another mistake. After massacring my poor ship, I took it apart, fixed the warp drive. Now, as far as I know, it's all set, and I'm really not going to be able to do it to take it apart again. I hope I didn't damage it beyond the point where it's going to function and be able to stay on the stand. But I'm going to glue it twice, and then I'm going to apply some of the plastic putty, and then I'll wash it down and it'll be ready for the decals. But yet another mistake that I made. I'm massacring my ship. Alright, so once again, I put the cap on, the deflector dish on. I want to make sure everything's working. Let's start light blocking. And oh yeah, by the way, I want to make sure the deflector dish is going to warp mode and impulse mode. And it has. So, okay, now we can start light blocking. Out of all the times I busted it apart and put it together, one of the, I don't know if these are impulse engines or thrusters, but there's one on the other side that's not lit up. And I've ripped this thing apart 3 times already that I can count. I lost track actually, and I'm not doing it again. So if that one is out, I'm just going to have to live with it. So let's go ahead and start light blocking her hull. Okay, let me give you an update on what I'm doing. I got a jumper header kit, and I'm going to make the alligator clips. These are these are the main lights, positive and negative. And I'll show you the leads. Put them in, put a little bit of solder, keep them in place, and then crimp them. And I took one of the clips, it'd be a 5-shot clip, and I glued them together. And as per the diagram, I had to mark them. And I'll put up a picture of the diagram so you know what I'm talking about. But I'm going to get these wires organized for the alligator clip, and then I'll be able to finish working on the ship. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that, but once I get the leads on, I put them into the alligator clip, and they're going to be sticking out about 2 centimeters, enough to be put in or slide into the female alligator clip that'll be coming from the base. So I got, let's see, this is the main lights and the positive for the deflector dish. So I'll show you what it looks like when they're all in. Okay, so what I did was I put the ends, soldered them all on. So now they're all ready to put into the alligator clip. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue them in place into the alligator clip just to make sure they're secure so they don't go anywhere. Alright, to give you a little bit of an update, what I did was I put all the wiring, harnesses together. And you can see I made it a little bit bigger, the clip, just so they're not as close touching each other. You can see I'm following the plan. And this will be coming from the ship, and it's going to clip into the base. That way there, if the ship, I want to disconnect it, I'll be able to. So now it's on to cleaning the putty and smoothing it out and putting on the finishing decals. Alright, so I smoothed out the putty in the areas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply putty to the other side, and I'll give it a final, kind of like a smoothing over, and then I'm going to start painting the seams. And I got to touch up some of the stickers. Okay, so I smoothed out the surfaces where I put the powder. All the light leaks and all the cracks have been filled. And I'll wait for this to really dry well. And what I'll do is I'll give it a real light sanding in some areas to make sure it's ultra smooth. And then I'm going to paint the seams. But I want to make sure right now that all the light leaks are blocked. So I'm going to test it out. Alright, so I got it hooked up to a battery supply. And I just want to make sure that everything is nice and dark, well, where it's supposed to be dark. A little light leak over there that I'm going to touch up, and then the paint will cover that. You can see looking pretty good. It's all set, like I said, for a final dry. Let it dry really good, the perfect plastic putty, and then I'm going to give it a ever so slightly sand just to make sure it's smooth, and then I'm going to paint. And when it's ready to paint, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so it's been lightly sanded. It's all nice and smooth in all the areas. Flip her over. Sand at the bottom. Get everything nice and smooth, filled in the cracks and all the light gaps. A little bit of sanding. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint the seams. That way there, she'll be ready for her decals, but we still got a ways to go. I got to paint all the seams. You can see the Aztecing. And when I put the finish coat on it, hopefully they jump off a lot better. But I'm going to paint all the seams. I'm going to use a brush, and I'll show you what it looks like when she's dry. Alright, I'm probably going to need another coat of the paint in the little joining plate areas to try to get it a little bit smoother, but slowly getting there. Take you inside of the shuttle bay. And once the second coat is on and it's all smooth, I can give it a final sanding and I can put the decals on. Okay, so what I did was the paint that I put on to patch the line between the plates, when it was dry, it was a little bright. So what I had to do is I had to mix some paint and, well, blend it as best as I could to get the light block to stop and to get it to blend in as much as possible. So, you can see the light block that was there is gone. I try to swing her around without the battery disconnecting. Nope, and it didn't. I swing around to the other side. I said try to get the light block and to get the little areas to blend in as best as I could. There's still a little area over there that I'll do and I'll touch up right now. Okay, I touched that area up and it looks pretty good. I don't see any light leaks anywhere. Ready to, what I'm going to do now is once this paint is dry, you can see the areas that I kind of blended it in. I'll lightly sand it and I'll blend it in. I'll get rid of the lumps and smooth it out, and then I'll be ready to put the decals on. But all the light leaks are taken care of. The patches are painted, and hopefully I'll be ready to move on soon and put the decals on. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all dry. Alright, so with the lights on, let me show you a little bit of the areas that I patched. Like I said, they were all different colors because it didn't match, because I didn't take into effect that all the Aztecing was painted on, so it was a little bit darker. So I had to mix up some white paint and put a little bit of black in it until I could blend it in as best as I can. So what I'm going to do now is I'll give it a really fine sand after the paint's dry, and hopefully she'll be smooth and I'll be ready to move on to putting the decals on. And I gotta fix some of the decals. You can see that came off, a little piece. I probably should have waited, but I was caught up in the enterprise and I got ahead of myself. So I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's dry. Alright, so I'm ready to start putting on the decals. Everything is blended in and smoothed out. So she's ready to have the final decals put on. I'll show you what she looks like as progress continues. can see a little bit of an update. Those strongbacks are quite the bugger. And they're still really wet. I didn't wet them down, I didn't pat them dry. I think I'll just let them dry naturally. And I'll move on to the underneath of the deflector dish. Alright, so I'll give you a little update. A lot of the decals are on. Again, you can learn what not to do by watching my videos, because there are a ton of mistakes on here. And like I said, I'm not going to pat down the decals. I'm going to let them dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the clear coat over everything to try to lock everything into place. So I got a few more on the back end near the shuttle bay, and I'll show you what it looks like when all the stickers are on. Okay, so I got some, well, the decals on the back. These are really small, like I did on the nacelle pylons. The little, tiny little ones, they go on the back as well. And when I decided to drill the phasers out, I ended up, the other one is off, so it looks, well, it doesn't look very well. But then again, you can learn from my mistakes, and there's plenty. Alright, so all the little decals are on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it dry thoroughly. And I'm going to put that clear coat over everything to try to seal it in like I did for the saucer pylon and the nacelle pylons. I don't know if you can see in there. So once these are all dry tomorrow, I'll put a few coats of the protectant and we'll be ready to move on to the pylons. Okay, so I gave it a coat of the protectant to seal it in. I only gave one coat so far. Hopefully it makes the Aztecing pop out. After it's dry, I'll probably go ahead and give it another coat just to keep it nice and shiny, protected, and keep the decals in place for a long time. But that's the first coat. Looking good. I'll show you what it looks like when it's dry and see if I put another coat on. Okay, so it had a chance to dry. And what I did was I gave it one really good heavy coat. And I think I'm going to do now is I'll wait, and then when it's totally done, for one final coat, I'll put another coat on. And that'll kind of take, bring it all together with that one final coat of clear coat. Bring her around for you. You can see that shine from the clear coat. Hopefully it can get the Aztecing to pop out. What I'll do is, when she's finished, I'll really light her up with some spotlights. Or, you know what, I'll put her in the sun. And hopefully the natural light will really get those Aztecing painting markings to really pop out. Oh, my friends, it took a while, but the secondary hull is complete. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move on to the nacelle pylons.